colleagues, it's gone 10 o'clock, so bring the meeting to order. We'll go through the usual preamble, and there is additional information which I'm required to read out. So if you've been to a PDSP before, you can go away and have a cup of tea and a bacon roll, and we'll still be finishing that, but hopefully I'll get that over as quickly as possible and get into the report itself. So as I say, good morning. Welcome to this meeting of the Environment and Sustainability Policy Development and Scrutiny Panel. I'm Councillor Tom Conn. I chair this PDSP. The meeting is being broadcast live over the internet on the Council's YouTube channel. A recording of the meeting will be available through the Council's website afterwards. I am assisted today by David Moll and by two members of the Council's Committee Services. The meeting is taking place under hybrid arrangements. That means that elected members and council officers can either be part of the meeting here in the chamber or by internet connection from somewhere else. When members wish to speak, they click a button and that sends an alert to me, and the officers help me to run the meeting. Those requests go into a queue and microphones are activated in turn to let them be heard. When members are authorised to speak, their faces will appear on screen. There is more information, including a privacy statement about meeting arrangements, on the Council's website. There will be some time lags of a few seconds as the microphones and cameras respond to signals from members. Members should please remember that everything they say while their microphones are live will be broadcast and recorded. Members are asked to be polite, respectful and patient. An agenda has been published showing the business for today's meeting. The meeting has only one item of business. Officers will speak briefly about the report before councillors ask questions, have a discussion and make any decisions that are required. Councillors may leave the meeting from time to time where they have declared interests that prevent them taking part. There will be a pause while that happens and they will be invited back in for the next item of business. If the meeting is a long one, then it might be adjourned temporarily for a meal break or a comfort break. I will say when that is going to happen. Are there any apologies for absence?
Chair, thank you. There are no apologies today, but if I can take the opportunity to confirm those people online. You have Councillor Sally Patel and also Pippa Plevin from the Joint Forum of Community Councils.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? As I say, the order of business has been publicised. Just before we start, could I ask non-councillors present if they could identify themselves and the organisation that they represent, please?
Hi, I'm Jocelyn Lockhart from West Lothian Climate Action Network Hub.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Do I press it?
Pat?
Dead for Branch Records and Convener for United Union.
Yeah, thanks, Pat, yeah. And I think Pippa online.
Hello, I'm Pippa Plevin. I'm representing the Joint Forum of Community Council.
Thanks, Pippa. The paper before us is the Revenue Budget Strategy 2026-27, 27-28. The preamble that I've been asked to make is as follows. Today's meeting is an essential step in the process the Council has put in place to develop and agree its budget for 2026-27 and its longer-term financial plan. A consistent commitment has been given to bring information to PDSPs on the responses to the third phase of the Your Council, Your Say consultation. The public consultation will assist in the prioritisation and allocation of resources to activities that have the greatest impact, while ensuring balanced budgets for the remaining 2 years of the 5-year period to 27, 28. Considering this detail at PDSP meetings means that West Lothian residents and businesses can see what is being considered before Council makes its decision about council tax and savings. It also means that organisations and partners who are entitled to a seat at the PDSP table can take part in discussions, have their say and have their views noted and taken into account later by councillors. The umbrella organisations entitled to send representatives to all PDSPs are the recognised trade unions, the Senior People's Forum, the Youth Congress, any recognised umbrella organisation representing the interests of community councils, the recognised voluntary sector interface in West Lothian, the Race Forum and the Faith Forum. The council leader had indicated that all elected members will be invited to PDSPs at which the responses to the consultation and budget setting for 2026-27 will be considered. PDSPs can agree to more participants, and I would suggest that the additional elected members in attendance at today's meeting be allowed to participate. I trust that the panel are in agreement with that. Thank you. There is a big picture about the council's finances and the pressures on resources and services. Some of that is in the papers in front of the PDSP. However, it is hoped that this PDSP will concentrate more on the service issues that are relevant here so that they can get the detailed consideration they deserve. That is the job that PDSPs have been asked to do. Phase 3 consultation responses within the remit of the panel are set out in Appendix 2 of the report. Appendix 3 sets out the potential budget savings for services within the remit of the panel. I would ask that you keep the following in mind as we go through them. First of all, the savings measures are not proposals that have been made by councillors. These are suggestions brought forward by council officers to try to help decisions that must be made to allow the council to balance its books. Secondly, none of these have yet been agreed. Decisions will have to be made by all councillors at the budget setting meeting of the council on 24th February. Some of these proposals may be approved and taken forward, and some of them might not go any further. We have council officers here today to take note of the discussions and the points made by councillors and representatives taking part. I would remind colleagues that there are no motions and amendments and voting at PDSPs. The points made through comments will be noted. They will then be used for a section in the full council budget setting report about the PDSP stage in the process. We will go through the agenda in the usual way. I will introduce the report and ask officers to speak to it. More than one officer might speak where there is a specialised issue involved. I will then invite questions from everyone at the table in turn. If you have questions, then please make sure to let me know, as well as the lead officer who will present the reports. There are officers present who will be able to answer questions about the saving measures and the detailed content of the reports. After we've been through all the measures, I will ask if there are any more questions that might have been missed first time round. From there, I will ask for comments. Everyone will have a chance to have their say on the contents of the report. Comments will be noted and reported to all elected members at the full council meeting when budgets will be agreed. Expressing your comments about the budget saving measures is the best way to influence the decisions later. I hope everyone will help the whole process through a constructive and respectful meeting. If anyone has any questions about the procedure or about what is to happen after the PDSP meeting, please let me know and I will invite the lead officer to explain the process. If there are no further, if there's no questions, I'll invite David Moll to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. As you have highlighted in your introduction, the purpose of this report is to provide the panel with an update on the Council's financial plan and to outline a number of potential savings options relevant to the remit of this PDSP. I would highlight the recommendations as set out in section B of the report, which note the outcome of the recent Your Council, Your Say Phase 3 budget consultation, the updated budget gap for the next 2 years, and notes a range of officer budget savings measures. Noting the recommendations of this report will allow officers to progress with the finalisation of the revenue budget strategy for 2026-27 and 2027-28, which will be presented to full council later this month for approval. Set out in section D.2 of the report, the revised budget gap over the next 2 years is £15.4 million, taking account of already approved savings and the latest local government finance settlement. The Council agreed at the meeting of 25th of February 2025 that officers should consider options to address the remaining budget gap, with options to be incorporated into the Phase 3 public budget consultation. Section D.3 of the report sets out details of the consultation approach that was undertaken between October and November last year, with the results reported to the Council Executive on the 13th of January 2026. You will note from Section D.3 that for the Phase 3 consultation, 10,051 responses were received, and this generated 28,340 comments. Table 4 on page 5 of the report highlights a total of 8,767 comments that were received in relation to budget proposals that fall under the remit of this committee. Appendix 1 of the report provides more detail on the comments we received. Table 5 on page 6 of the report breaks down the officer response to these 8,767 comments, and Appendix 2 of the report provides more detail of the breakdown of these responses. Section D.4 of the report summarises the work that officers have undertaken to identify additional savings measures, and these are set out in tables on page 7 of the report, arranged by consultation theme. Appendix 3 provides more detail on these measures, including the proposed phasing of delivering the saving, any estimated FTE reduction, and the impact on service performance or delivery. Appendix 4 provides details of the screening process for integrated impact assessments and the consumer duty impact assessments. Finally, Chair, in terms of next steps, the comments made by the panel in relation to the potential savings measures being discussed this morning will be considered when the updated revenue budgets for 2026-27 and 27-28 are presented to full council for approval. Chair, I will pass back to you to allow for questions on the report.
Thank you, David. Colleagues, I would suggest the way that we progress the paper is go through it on a step-by-step basis. Deal with, first of all, the consultation feedback, if there's any questions, which is on page 4. Can I maybe just highlight that on page 4, the section was WL2028, Your Council, Your Say consultation, refers to it as paragraph D2. That is actually paragraph D3. There are 2 D2s, but the second D2 is D3. So when I'm making reference to D3, it's on page 4. And then go through appendix 1, 2, 3, 4 in that order and questions. And hopefully if we can go through on that basis, we don't do an overlap by crossing over and asking someone question. It's on appendix 4, where we're doing appendix 1. Just hopefully that might help us progress the report. So could I first ask then, are there any questions on the consultation feedback section D3 from members? Councillor Smith, Veronica.
Yeah, it's just on page 5. So it says here, officers have reviewed all of the individual comments received and have suggested a response from 9 options. So I was just wondering how officers made that decision from that table, and does that mean that they other options that haven't gone forward will not be progressed.
David?
Chair, I can confirm that officers analysed all of the comments and that come back as part of consultation. So every measure that had a comment against it was considered, and in terms of the feedback of that, the analysis of the feedback of those comments is in table 5, page 6 of the report. And when we get into later on in the report, you will see that there are a number of the measures that officers are proposing to bring forward are in line with some of the suggestions that were in the consultation.
So that means the ones that haven't been commented on will not go forward.
Chair, all comments that come in through the public consultation were analysed and commented on. Set out in page 6 of the report. So there was 8,767 comments relevant to this PDSP, which is set out in table 4, and table 5 provides a breakdown of the 9 categories that all those 8,767 comments were analysed into.
Okay, so those 9 will go forward into the budget, but the others won't. Is that correct?
Chair, if I can explain, there are comments that are set. There are proposals that were set out in the consultation for consultation, and there are then proposals brought forward by officers that we intend taking forward into the budget, set out later in the report in page 7 and appendix 3. And some comments that were in the consultation have not been proposed to be taken forward by officers into that part.
Okay.
That explains.
Are there any other questions on section D3? Don't see any indications. Are there any comments on section D3? No. Okay. Councillor Mannion, Susan.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's just to commend the officers for the scale and depth of the consultation process. I think it exceeds anything that we had have seen previously, and it's been extensive and detailed. So I think officers have done well to ensure that there's a clear read across between the consultation and the responses back. So thank you to the officers for taking this forward.
Thank you. Any further comments? If not, could we go to Appendix 1 on page 9 of the report? Are there any questions on the summary? Councillor Alison?
Wait until you got to section D4. You went from D3 and stopped.
Appendix 1 refers to D3, so yeah, not quite at D4 yet.
I've got something on D4.
Right, okay.
That's still now.
We're still to come to that.
All right, okay, sorry.
Are there any questions on Appendix 1? Okay. Councillor Adamson, D4.
Generating income. And there's it talks about option implementation of agreed policy on charging for replacement bins. Now, I've looked through all the other pages and all the other papers, and I can't find anything on that. One, what is the agreed policy on charging for replacement bins? And can someone give me some information on that, please?
Yeah, I'll answer that. Council took a decision a number of years ago to charge for the provision of new and replacement household bins. We currently charge house builders for new bins. However, due to a number of operational changes to household waste services over the last number of years, in particular the introduction of twin stream recycling, which introduced new recycling arrangements, replacement bin charges weren't implemented in those years. And that was due to the council receiving external funding through Zero Waste Scotland for rolling out those bins. Now that service is embedded, officers intend to charge when a replacement bin is requested. That's unless the bin council has been found to damage the bin, or it's been retained by the waste collection vehicle, as sometimes happens. So that's background to the measure.
Okay, so if a bin is stolen, if a householder's bin vanishes and it hasn't fallen into the truck and it's been stolen, a householder isn't going to be charged, 50 or 60 quid for a new bin?
First of all, the charge is not as high as that. I think there's a paper going to the Corporate Policy and Resources, PDSP, tomorrow that sets out the schedule of charges for the next 2 years. But your replacement or lost bins will be charged.
Thank you, I was unaware of that.
Do you have any other questions on this?
So we don't know how much it's going to be. I know that if people report a bin and they've been told in the past to get a crime reference number from the police, does that not then mean that they don't have to pay for a replacement bin?
Chair, the proposal will be to charge for replacement bins.
Okay, thank you.
I think, as David has mentioned, strictly speaking, it's not part of this report because it's at the corporate PDSP where various charges are actually approved. So there's an opportunity to raise that as an issue at that PDSP, given that's where the charge is stated.
Okay, thank you. This is the first time I've cited anything on this, as I say, and there's nothing in the rest of the papers about it. So this was the only opportunity I had to bring this up. So thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Patel, Sally.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I've got a really bad connection today. First of all, thanks again for allowing me to participate because I'm not on this panel. I'd also like to say thank you very much to the officers for this paper because it really was clear as you worked through the various appendices how it translated over. I do have a couple of questions. I'm just going to run through them in page order, if that's okay. So I guess my first question, and this isn't hugely important, on page 17, recommendation O2D, which I like because it's about water, so that's nicely done. Why is that sitting in operational services and not education?
Chair, the Operational Services Facilities Management team are responsible for the provision of school meals.
Okay. Well, I think that's, they definitely shouldn't be getting single-use plastic anything, so good, that's great. Then I was wondering if somebody could give me a bit more information on the waste disposal proposal, which I like. And I know that that goes on to page 24 as well, and on page 24, it talks about how gully cleaning water is no longer going to go to landfill. It's going to be recycled. And it has the most exciting word, conventual, which I don't know what that means. So if somebody could explain what that means, because again, I had no idea that gully cleaning water was currently going to landfill, which therefore incurred a charge. So thank you. Also, what does conventual mean? It's brilliant.
Okay, Chair, I'll answer this one as well, and I'll try not get too technical, but in essence, our gully cleaning machines and our mini road sweepers, when they collect what they're then cleaning, there is a high water content left in what they collect and therefore have to dispose of. Now, we pay for waste disposal by the tonne. So what this plant will attempt to do is it will extract the water from the waste, and therefore it will only be what's left that we will pay to go to landfill. And then in terms of the water, it will filter the water down to a level that it is able to just go through the normal street drainage systems. That's as non-technical as I can make it, but hopefully that helps explain what the purpose of the dewatering facility will be. So as a sustainability measure, we're sending less tonnage of waste material to landfill, but we're also returning some of it as clean or cleanish water as well.
Okay, that's brilliant. Can I ask, if that saving can be made, are there any plans then to increase street cleaning, gully cleaning as we go forward? That's something that is raised with me definitely on a monthly basis, if not a weekly basis.
Chair, I think the purpose of this panel today is to discuss budget reduction measures or budget savings measures, but I'll certainly note those comments and we'll consider them and maybe come back another time.
Thanks, David. Thank you. Okay, on page 18, 07C 1B, it's talking about the jobs. The equivalent will be a loss of 4 full-time FTE. Can you expand a little bit on that? Are these people that are likely to retire, jobs that were temporary contracts? Can you expand a wee bit on that?
Happy to, Chair. So the proposal is to save £300,000 by modernising services across the full range of operational services. And for a bit of context, we employ just over 1,300 staff. What we aim to do is to achieve the saving through a combination of measures. Firstly, reviewing management and supervision arrangements, reviewing structures of teams as vacancies arise, and as Councillor points out, that's more normal to be through retirement. Looking at systems and processes to cut down on the time spent on administration and back office tasks, but also critically maximising the use of external grant funding to support activities. So looking to see where external grants can support some of the staffing activities that we currently undertake.
Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, and then I've just got a couple more, if that's all right, Chair. So moving on page 19, we get into 06C 2A, which is income generation from maximising the use of country parks and enforcement action. The maximising the income generation from country parks, how confident are officers that exercise is going to provide income generation in the short term?
Thank you, Chair. The Council is currently undertaking a marketing exercise to seek interest from companies looking to use our 3 country parks for autumn or winter themed events, or indeed during the remainder of the year. The Nets and Countryside teams are also looking very closely about what other opportunities exist across the whole year to generate income from these assets. So we are hopeful that we can grow our income generation. In terms of the marketing exercise that's currently underway, I think that's due to conclude on the 27th or 28th of February by memory. So I think to answer the question, we'll have a better indication come the end of this month how realistic those targets are. But we are confident that there are things that we can do to generate income through our parks.
Okay, all right. I'm just down to 2 more. So also in that cost saving measure, you've got enforcement action. And on page 39, you talk about issuing fixed penalties for food. Now, a couple of weeks ago, a council officer came to my business and he was going right along Linlithgow High Street. It was really welcome, talking about the issues that we've got with trade waste. And I was explaining to him the difficulty that we have, that, you know, the carriers very often don't come on when they're supposed to come, and they tell us just to leave the bins out. And it's something that, as a group of traders, really concerns us, and is something that we would love some more advice and support with. So I suppose my question is, I think it's fair enough if a business is just putting out a load of cardboard, obstructing the pavement, they leave it out for a week. That, to me, is not acceptable. But at the same time, I'm very aware of the difficulties that businesses are facing in terms of trade waste collection. So what support is going to be put in place to help us at the same time as enforcement action is being taken? Essentially, what is the carrot as well as the stick?
Chair, I'm going to bring in one of my officers in a moment, but there was actually a paper at the scheduled meeting of this PDSP, I think it was last week or the week before, regarding changes to some of our Cleaner Communities service standards. And Councillor Patel is right, the subject of how we handle enforcement and also education around trade waste is part of that paper that will now come back to Council Executive on the 17th of February. But Chair, I would suggest if I can bring in Victoria Mungo, she'll be able to help answer that question in more detail.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Patel, for your question. I think it is important to note that what we're proposing to pull forward in the new service standards very much will advise businesses that we are keen to work with businesses to prevent issues where footpaths are obstructed through trade or commercial waste. We have established just in December last year a working group which incorporates colleagues within planning and environmental health, because there is a significant recognition that where we see issues, particularly with trade and commercial waste, it largely relates to businesses where there has potentially been a change of use and the building has been repurposed. And it has to be acknowledged that where new developments occur, there's always opportunity to create new storage arrangements for trade or commercial waste. So with the new service standards, within that it will go into detail in terms of how we propose to engage with local businesses and assist and educate wherever we can. The fines that we have within the new service standards will be there and they will be implemented, but the intended use is for where we have repeat issues or issues where we have approached local businesses and the issue hasn't been tackled.
Okay, all right. Thanks very much, Victoria, and thank you for that's clearer now. Okay, and my final question is it's on page 41 and it's about the golf course upkeep. I am frankly incredulous that the council has been paying for the upkeep if West Lothian Leisure have been reaping all the benefits. I just wondered if somebody could explain a wee bit more about that.
Chair, yes, the responsibility for the operational Polkemmet golf course, the driving range and the visitor centre reception and associated staff transferred from West Lothian Council to West Lothian Leisure back in 2017. However, up to now, West Lothian Council has retained the responsibility for a number of the maintenance functions, including all grounds maintenance duties, tasks associated with the upkeep of the golf course and driving range. And just to clarify, the council no longer receives therefore any income from the golf course and the driving range to mitigate those expenses.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you again, and Chair. Thanks for letting me ask such a lot of questions. But this has been really useful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry. Pat?
Yeah, I have several questions regarding.
Can we try and keep it? Sorry, can we try and keep it to the order I said at the beginning? Appendix 1, 2, and 3. We're all over the place, and I'm just conscious that officers are trying to record comments, and I think it would just be better for them to note it down. So you wouldn't mind just.
There's questions on Appendix 3.
Yeah, well, still at question 1 was what I was asking questions on. Sorry. Just try to pull it back.
All right, I reckon, no problem. Everybody else there seemed to go.
Well, yeah, I was being slightly courteous at that time.
Thanks, Tom. I kind of lost my place as well. Thank you.
And I don't want to be discourteous to you, but if I can just pull it back, yeah.
You'd never be discourteous.
You're after something. Okay, Appendix 1. Do we have any questions on question 1, on Appendix 1, or any comments on Appendix 1? If not, Appendix 2, are there any questions to officers on Appendix 2? Are there any comments on Appendix 2? Appendix 3.
Chair, Pippa Plevin was looking to come in at that point.
Right, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I actually clicked it to try to have a question on Appendix 1. It was just on 2B, page 11, bringing car parking charges at council-owned car parks. Does that include railway stations?
Chair, I can confirm that there was a discussion at Council Executive in January, and as agreed by Council Executive in January, there will be a proposal coming forward through this PDSP, then Council Executive, that sets out officers' recommendations for pavement parking, introduction of decriminalised parking enforcement, and considers car parking charges. And those decisions, no decisions have been taken at this point in time, but those will come forward to Council Executive in due course.
Okay, so that'll be action separately. Okay, that's fine, thanks.
Yeah, I've got a few questions on modernisation across operational services. Could you explain what you mean by generic job roles?
Chair, what we mean there is, as we undertake review of services across management supervision roles, we will take the opportunity to see whether there are any opportunities to merge or realign roles or activities across teams as part of that review.
Would this result in any job re-evaluations?
Potentially it could, but I couldn't say definitively at this point in time.
Next question then would be, will fewer staff be expected to take up extra workload by reducing these 4 FTEs?
Chair, it's not the intention to put additional burden on existing staff.
Thanks. Will AI play any part in these efficiencies?
Chair, it's obviously early days on AI in terms of how it may be used across our service. We're a service that deals with a very high volume of customer inquiries and complaints, and I would perhaps see that there's opportunities there to use AI to help with how we interpret and analyse those complaints and inquiries, that in turn help us to respond quicker to our customers. But I stress it is very, very early days. I don't have any definitive plans in place at the moment.
Thanks. Just 2 more. It says in the details on the page that maximising external grant funding should limit impact. What happens if this grant funding was to be removed?
Chair, I would maybe first start out by saying where we think there is opportunities to use external grant funding to support staffing resources, it will be important to know that those external resources are reoccurring every year. So I'd be fairly hopeful that we will be able to manage our resources going forward, utilising some of that.
And are there any officer proposals that are likely to come forward at a later date that will implement any reduction in FTEs and frontline operatives?
Chair, I can't comment on future years if that's part of the question, but in terms of the proposals we have in front of us today for the next 2 years, I can confirm that there's no proposals for operational services that would impact on frontline waste, recycling or nets resources.
Thanks.
Thanks, Pat. Councillor Smith, Veronica.
So is it Appendix 3 we're talking about now? Yep. Okay, so some of the questions have already been asked, but there's just some clarification for some of them. The introducing a facility for waste disposal, which you explained earlier. So I presume you're having to buy in equipment and there'll be costs to that, and that I presume that's all been taken into account.
Yes, Chair. We're currently at the design stage of bringing the plant together. The plant will be situated at Whitehill Industrial Estate, on the same site as the salt domes, and the transfer station is located at the moment. The resources have been identified to introduce the plant. In terms of the savings have been introduced for 27-28. That means that the money we'll save this year will essentially pay largely towards the cost of introducing the new technology.
Okay. And similarly with the vehicle wash facility, you're making improvements to. So were there a lot of vehicles being sent out to be cleaned externally?
Yes, Chair. To explain, our heavier fleet, our HGV fleet, so your gritters, predominantly your gritters and your waste collection vehicles, are serviced every 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 6 weeks we'll say. And when we service those, they have to undergo essentially a deep clean on the outside to make sure that our mechanics can safely undertake their service and their MOTs. So the facility, the current wash facility that we've got at Whitehill just wasn't effective for doing that, and we were outsourcing it to another provider elsewhere on the estate. So the new vehicle wash will allow us to bring that work back in-house.
Okay. The next question is in efficiencies in fleet management. So there says there are savings of 322k. So could you explain what efficiencies these are? What was the original budget? And will there still be efficient vehicles, etc.?
Thank you, Chair. Fleet Services, to put into context, currently manage the procurement and maintenance over 1,000 vehicles and items of plant and machinery. So that's cars and vans, refuse collection vehicles, gritters, gully cleaners, street cleaning vehicles, minibuses. The Council commenced a 5-year rolling fleet replacement programme in late 2024. And that was aimed at modernising our fleet, reducing fleet numbers to around 850 to reflect demand and working practices, to reduce expense of short-term hires, and to reduce annual fleet maintenance. So through a combination of those measures, we're in the fortunate position that we're able to deliver a significant efficiency saving as part of that programme.
Okay, that's great, thanks. And just a few other questions. The bins, it was just a follow-up. It was just, how people can request a second bin, the blue and the green bins. They are not replacements, so I presume people will still have that facility to ask for a second bin free of charge.
Bring in our Recycling and Waste Manager, Scott Anderson, to answer that question.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor, for the question. We're pretty much going to model what most Scottish local authorities are doing at the moment, so there will be a charge for all bins that are being replaced. The current cost to the service is exorbitant. The amount of bins we replace on an annual basis is almost 10% of the landscape. So we have to basically rein the costs in, so there will be charges for people to apply for a second bin if it's approved.
So it'll be a charge for a second bin then?
Yes, apart from we're looking at the red top bins, so the additional capacity bins, so for medical waste or for households that have passed the test for requiring additional capacity in their bins.
Okay, thanks for that, that's good. Next question on the increased income. So it mentions enforcement activity, and I know they covered enforcement last week at the committee, and there's 4 enforcement officers. So there'll be a limit to how much the activity they'll be able to do. So how will they be able to increase the fines, etc.?
Chair, I think the plan there will be to evaluate the tasks that we expect of enforcement officers. There's elements of back office functions that I think that we can approve upon, and that will allow us to be essentially out on the streets more.
Okay. And then the last question is about the greenkeeping for the golf courses, because that's a lot of money. So what discussions have you had with West Lothian Leisure? Have you had them at the moment, and what has the feedback been?
Chair, I can confirm West Lothian Leisure are aware of the proposal. The proposal is phased as one that we'd look to introduce in 27-28. So discussions are at an early stage, but we will be having in-depth discussions with them, in partnership with them as we go forward, providing the measure is agreed by full council later in the month.
And you've got here about 5.1 staff reduction, but if with your negotiations for West Lothian Leisure and you provide the service, does that mean that staff would be retained?
Chair, indeed it would.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Veronica. Are there any other questions on Appendix 3? Are there any comments on Appendix 3? Pat?
Okay. Joint Trade Unions would like to congratulate Fleet Services and the tremendous work they've done with the new fleet they've brought in, and the service we've been receiving from, well, not we, but the operators in the vehicle can receive them from the fleet garage. It's a noticeable standard of the vehicles and such like. So I'd just like to congratulate Scott and his team on what they've done in the last year.
Thanks, Pat. Appendix 4. Are there any questions on Appendix 4? Questions? Are there any comments? No. Okay. On that basis then, colleagues, I'll draw the meeting to a close. But before I do so, kind of first of all, thank you for your attendance today and your participation, but also to extend my thanks to officers for the amount of work that's been carried out in producing these reports before us and for our consideration and information and longer deliberation as we go up to the full council meeting. Could I just clarify that there will be a record of what was said today, not necessarily word for word, but the important points which have been made by members and representatives from the outside organisations. So in closing the meeting, colleagues, can I ask that we note the recommendation set out in the paper? Thank you very much. Thank you. That meeting is now closed. Thank you.